Hi, my name is Leah Day, and this is a video for the free Motion Quilting Project. Today we're working in a small square, learning a new foundational design that is going to be perfect for any of the hair sections on Express Your Love, the quilt we're working on this year. So let's get on the machine and learn how Amazing Daisies works in free motion. The first thing we're going to do is start with our foundational line, and basically what this is, it's a wiggly line, and occasionally we're going to stop and stitch a daisy. So how do we stitch a daisy? Basically just form petal shapes. So there's a teardrop and another teardrop, and just form those, making them all come out from one central area, and just carefully stitching them all together in a little cluster. And whenever you're stitching this, you kind of start, especially if you quilt this kind of shape a lot, you'll start always forming the same number of petals. Usually I form 8 petals, but in this situation I form 7. So it just depends on the day, how you're feeling, but yeah, it does become a routine how many petals you form. Alright, I'm going to wiggle off and stitch another daisy. Just stitch up and back down. It's really good practice for hitting that point, that central point of your daisy exactly. And let's say that you had a space in your quilt and you wanted your daisies to be in exactly certain points. You wanted them to radiate out really specifically. Well, you could go through that quilt and just mark where you wanted these to go, and that would be perfectly fine. I think I can fit one more in down here. Let's put one about right there. Swing around. And this is almost a feather shape. If you really bend them around, that's almost forming a feather shape, and that's beautiful too. And it really doesn't matter how big these are. Of course, if you're stitching on a pretty big scale, you'll want to make your daisies pretty big, so that way they stay consistent with the rest of your design. The one thing is you kind of want it to be circular shaped. I got a really wild petal in here, but that's just fine. We're going to sort that out as we go around and fill in the rest of the foundation. Alright, wiggle off and finish that wiggly line up. Okay, so that is the foundation, and you can see that this really is a design in itself. This is very pretty. You could easily stitch this into borders, into sashing, and that would look really, really nice. But for this particular design, we're going to fill in and expand the rest of this area with echoes. So I'm going to zoom back in again and let you see how this works. This is really, really fun. I'm going to travel stitch against the edge of my quilting space, and I'm going to come in, and I'm going to hit that point that I exited that daisy, and now I'm going to swing around. I'm going to swing around, and I'm going to come down and connect with the space between each petal shape. So I'm just kind of bouncing in there and bouncing right out. I call that a bouncy echo. Now I'm going to swing down here and bounce around this daisy. The thing I love about bouncy echoes, coming in and hitting those points, is it really adds just a little bit of extra thread right in those spots. And so that's going to be a little brighter, a little darker, a little bit more texture is going to show up in those areas. I find it really, really neat. So now I came to the end of my foundation, and I'm going to swing back up again, doing the exact same thing. Just coming up and bouncing around. And at this point, it's really repetitive. You're just doing the same set of steps, the same set of shapes. You're just taking that foundation and expanding it. And you don't have to fill it completely. I'm going to take this and fill my entire block with it. But if you just like the effect, the look of maybe 3 or 4 sets of echoes, then this could be another design in itself as well. So here we're basically kind of learning 3 different designs in one with this design, which is really fun. I'm going to come down one more time on this side. You can also see how this is starting to fill the space. I'm going to start getting a few little weird areas, like right here between the daisies, and what you do is just concentrate on maintaining that echo, and that's going to set you right. Sometimes I like to come in and do a little bit more echoing, like come in all the way into the daisy and come back out. As long as you are using a thin thread, a thread that is thin and strong enough to take free motion quilting, then that's going to be just fine. If you're using a really weak thread, like cotton, cheap cotton thread, then it's probably going to break when you do stuff like that. You know, it's just too many layers of thread. I'm using Isocord polyester thread, and it can absolutely be travel stitched this many times. So hopefully you could see just then, I had this little space right here, and I just popped in there and filled it up with just a few more echoes. And so now you're starting to see what this texture is going to look like, stretched all the way out to the edges of our quilting space. It's super funky. So basically, to finish this design, all you're going to do is just continue to carefully echo. Let me show you how I'm going to handle this weird space. I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to fill it up just like that. And I'm going to swing around this one. These daisies are going to expand and grow, kind of like the design Super Daisy. And they're going to, the petal shapes especially, are just going to continue to expand over the surface of your quilt until they kind of all merge together. And all of the petals are going to be more or less overlapping. So like right here, this one's going to come down and this one's going to kind of pop out that way. And that's just fine. And it's really interesting to see, you know, when you have a petal, where it starts and how it's going to grow and how it's going to get bigger as it fills up the space completely. So that's it for Amazing Daisies. I really hope that you've enjoyed learning how to quilt this funky foundational design. I think it's going to be the perfect design to work into any narrow space. Sashing borders would look absolutely amazing with this design stitched in it. Of course, we only quilted a little bit of this foundation, so you didn't get to see it expand completely within the block. So here's what it looks like whenever I finished it. So hopefully you can see just how fun and funky this design's going to look. And you really got 3 different designs in one. You can quilt just the basic foundation line, a wiggly line with some daisies stitched in it. You know, call it Chain of Daisies or something. Daisy chain would be a nice name. And then the other variation would be to stitch maybe 3 rows of echoes on either side of that chain. That would look really, really pretty. That would kind of expand it a little bit, give it a little bit more texture on the surface of your quilt, give it a little bit more oomph. And then the last version of the design is to take that echoing and spread it out completely until it fills the block absolutely completely with all those rows and rows of echo quilting. So it's a lot of different possibilities here. I hope that you'll play with this and definitely post your progress, whatever you decide to stitch with Amazing Daisies, and post your progress on the Free Motion Quilting Project. We have a link up every Friday, the Free Motion Friday, and you can share your progress on your blog and then link up with us so we can all see what you worked on. So definitely check that out at the Free Motion Quilting Project. And of course, if you see anything in this video that caught your eye, like my gloves, tools, and supplies for free motion quilting, can be found at leahday.com. I have a quilt shop there, and it supports the Free Motion Quilting Project and allows me to post all of these videos for free. So enjoy, and until next time, let's go quilt.